Former Chancellor Sebastian Kurz looks certain to reclaim his position as the youngest leader in the world after his Conservative People's Party secured its best election results since 2002. The snap general election was called after a scandal felled the previous coalition government, but Kurz has emerged stronger than ever.
It's an amazing result. We are extremely thankful. It's a historic day for the People's Party in Austria, and we are so thankful for the support of the people in our country. Now we will try our best to serve the Republic of Austria.
Unbelievable. No words at the moment.
A super result. Let's see where the coalition negotiations go. I'd say the next 2 weeks will certainly be interesting.
Phenomenal, as expected.
Kurz's party looks to have increased its share of the vote by more than 7%, but former coalition partners, the far-right Freedom Party, have been hit by a 10% drop. They've suffered badly in the fallout from the so-called Ibizagate video, which secretly recorded their leader promising government contracts to a woman posing as a contact for a Russian oligarch. In the coming days, Kurz will have to seek coalition partners. He could try to renew the alliance with the far right. He could go for a grand coalition with the second-place Social Democrats. Or he could consider a three-way pact with the Liberal Neos party and the other big winners on the night, the resurgent Greens.
This is a mandate, especially from the young people, as we are clearly the #1 party ready to implement our programme. We want to make Austria the #1 environmental and climate protection nation.
Either way, the coalition talks are widely expected to be difficult. Those on the left have already said they would need to see a radical change from the right-wing policies pursued by the previous coalition. Kurz has signalled he's willing to talk to anyone. Evelyn Laverick, Euronews.
Well, joining us for more on this, live in Vienna, is our political correspondent, Darren McCaffrey. Morning to you, Darren. So, clearly a very strong showing from Sebastian Kurz and the People's Party. The question now is, who does it look likely that he might form a coalition with?
Yeah, indeed, as Austrians wake up this morning to the morning coffees, it is in some ways business as usual. Sebastian Kurz back as the Chancellor of Austria, the world's youngest leader. He said he was overwhelmed and speechless last night, and in many ways it was a personal victory for him as much as it was for the People's Party, but a reminder that centre-right parties can still win elections in Europe. But you're right, he's got a difficult task now about who he potentially goes into government with. He's got several options. One of them, of course, is the Socialists in some type of grand coalition. At the moment, Rosie, that looks very, very unlikely, given the acrimony between those two parties. Of course, it was the Socialists that called for a vote of confidence in the first place. Then there is going back into bed, essentially, with the far right, with the Freedom Party. Now, again, that looks quite difficult in the sense that they lost 10 percentage points, and it was a scandal that brought down this government in the first place involving the Freedom Party. And even today, they're potentially facing further investigations into fraudulent expenses. So that might prove quite a troublesome path. And then the third option is the Greens, who had their best ever election result. They were up 10 percentage points, and they've got clearly a lot of support amongst young people. But again, that might be quite difficult for Sebastian Kurz, because ultimately they haven't really got an awful lot in common. So expect quite a difficult few weeks for Sebastian Kurz. A personal victory. He certainly won this election, but actually his options in some ways are quite limited.
One development we saw was this increase in votes for the Green Party. Is this part of what we've seen that's been dubbed the Green Wave sweeping across Europe?
I think undeniably it really is. It has not just been in Austria, but notably in places like Germany, in France, in Denmark, lots of Scandinavia, and indeed elsewhere. We've seen a very significant increase in the last couple of years for Green parties in those countries. In part, it's been driven simply by young people. If you look at a breakdown of the election results here in Austria, the Green Party are neck and neck with the People's Party amongst 16 to 35-year-olds, a sign that this green wave is being perpetuated mainly by young people, whereas the Freedom Party did best amongst those that are older and who live in rural communities. So again, we're seeing this big divide in politics between young people who essentially see the environment as the #1 issue and older people who are still concerned about this issue of migration. And I have to say also, Rosie, it is slightly a trend that we're seeing in Western Europe rather than in Eastern Europe, but one that is notable and one that mainstream parties are going to have to take notice of ahead of future elections in other parts of Europe later on this year.
Thank you, Darren, our political editor, live for us in Vienna. Well, the election results had a significant reaction from across Europe, with many figures weighing in to congratulate Sebastian Kurz. Shauna in the Cube has been following their congratulations.
Well, he's back. He's now the Chancellor yet again of Austria. And he was quick, Sebastian Kurz, to take to social media. On Twitter, he said, "I promise that we will do our best for our beautiful Austria to put it back to work." But there was many different leaders congratulating Sebastian Kurz in that election victory. The president of Serbia, saying, "I firmly am convinced that you, Sebastian Kurz, with your youth, your knowledge and your political experience, you will do great things for Austria." Pointing to his age, of course, he is only 33 years of age. The incumbent leader of Germany, Chancellor, she was quick again to take to social media for congratulations, but also pointed towards his pro-European stance and says, "I look forward to further cooperation at a European level." Somebody who has been in the spotlight recently is the leader of Ukraine. He again pointing to that European relationship, saying, "Looking forward to working with you for our sake of both of our two countries, but also for a united Europe." What about the Greens on a national level? They had a great election victory. They took to Twitter to say, "What an evening, what a result. We do not have any words." Well, what's next? We have to wait to see what kind of government is going to form following these election results.